Today we have a story time of a Gen Z kid who fakes being disabled for attention and clout. This kid literally pretends to be completely disabled from the waist down, but he gets exposed in a really funny and just awkward manner that I know you'll enjoy. So sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing, and let's jump right into the story. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted today's story Gerald. So anyways, Gerald was starting the 8th grade, and every single year in his school there were new kids that would come in, and you're always supposed to give special attention and make sure that the new kids felt good at the new school. As I'm sure a lot of you guys know, if you started a new school, especially not with a bunch of other people, you're one of the few new kids. It's very difficult as a lot of kids have already kind of formed groups and cliques or whatever. So it becomes difficult to get friends, right? So this new kid, right, who we're going to call the Gen Z kid, was not like most kids who showed up. So this kid showed up in a wheelchair, right? So on the very first day, it was very apparent that there's a new kid there because he didn't look like any of the other kids there. And everyone was really good about giving this guy extra special attention to make sure that he was, doing all right. Extra special attention, I don't mean like staring and pointing attention. I mean asking, if he needed help, bring stuff, from a book bag, like his book bags around, needed help, guides to class, stuff like that, right? And on the very first day, this kid actually, a lot of people were giving him a lot of positive support, right? So Gerald was one of those kids. No one at this moment, literally no one at this moment, believed for a second that this kid was faking being in a wheelchair for attention. Nobody yet. Gerald would be one of the first ones to, find some evidence that was suspicious, and then Gerald would be, basically lambasted and made a pariah because everyone's thinking, wow, how could you accuse this kid of something with such baseless accusations? You're a heartless man. But Gerald turns out to be correct. But anyways, right, so a couple weeks in the school, what happens is the Gen Z kid, since he got so much attention off the bat, for one, being a new kid, but also being in a wheelchair, that he almost like immediately climbed up the social ladder to like the most popular guy. Because basically the Gen Z kid, he got a lot of attention from being in the wheelchair, and he definitely abused it. And let me just say that a lot of times kids in school with disabilities, they get picked on a lot, and it's really, really unfortunate, and you really do hate to see it. But the Gen Z kid was almost like a master manipulator in a sense. And so he kind of used, first of all, he's not actually in a wheelchair, but he kind of used his like positioning of getting a lot of attention in the very beginning, and then used that to form like, friendships and relationships with people that were kind of already known as the top dog or whatever. And then the Gen Z kid almost immediately became like the number one alpha whatever. And here's the thing, the Gen Z kid was one of the most brutal, meanest people there. However, here's the thing, right? He's already he's friends with everyone at the top, or the top of the high school social ladder, which, I mean, high school social ladder, it's kind of irrelevant or whatever. But the thing is, he was already friends with a lot of people. And the other thing is, like, if you were mean back to them, you would just be immediately accosted by everyone around you because, bro, you're being mean to the person who has to, who's going around in a wheelchair. Like, you're actually an a-hole, bro. Like, that's how people would perceive it. So the Gen Z kid was, actually a secret evil genius or whatever, or a super villain, basically. And Gerald didn't really think that much. But one day, about a month into school, he was having a sleepover with another friend. We're going to call this friend Ben. So Gerald and Ben went to the same school, and they both knew about the Gen Z kid. And Gerald, I don't know if you guys experienced this, but when I have sleepovers with the boys, at a certain time, it's just late enough at night, once you stop playing, I don't know, video games or going out and doing something, and you're just kind of chilling, you guys have those deep talks, if you guys know what I mean. So Gerald didn't want to be the guy who's I don't know, dunking on the kid in the wheelchair, bro. He didn't want to be that guy, right? So Gerald very sheepishly is like, oh, what do you think of the Gen Z kid, right? And I say Gen Z kid not because, literally in the Gen Z generation. I just mean Gen Z in the fact that, wants extreme amounts of attention and will basically use other people's life situations to try and get more attention and for their own gain. That's what some people are confused. They're like, oh, well, are you all in Gen Zs and a whole generation? That's what I mean. It's colloquial, not actually the direct exact term. But yeah, so Gerald kind of turns to his friend Ben. He's like, yay, so, the Gen Z kid, he's pretty popular now. I mean, it's been a while since a new student kind of rose the ranks that quickly. And Ben's like, yeah, he's cool. And Gerald's like, yeah. They were both very obviously trying to like skirt around the fact that they did not like this kid at all. Remember, not because of any of his disabilities or anything, or quote unquote, huge quotations, disabilities. This kid was actually taken away from people who really have those disabilities and have to live their life with it without a choice, right? But at this point, everyone believed it was real, so let's speak as if it was real. But then Gerald was like, I thought for a kid who's been through so much hardship that he would maybe be a little nicer to other people. And Ben's like, I kind of agree. When you and your friend have this like slightly controversial opinion, maybe it's not even that slightly controversial, but you don't know if they share the same opinion, and if they disagree with you, they're going to be really mad. So you slowly kind of like ease towards that opinion, right? And then they slightly ease towards that opinion. It's almost like you're going in for a kiss, bro. Oh, wait, kiss the homies? Wait a minute. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, but anyways, eventually Gerald and Ben, they're talking and they just get straight to it. And they're like, I can't believe this kid's such a jerk to everyone. I mean, the Gen Z kid would literally start like being like just calling people out for no good reason. He'd be like, rolling with his like group of other popular people. And it would be like, I don't know, man. It would be like, he'd be rolling by with like the other people and they'd pass by some kid who was like, I don't know, a little scruffy looking. The Gen Z kid's like, when's the last time you took a shower? And would like point at some kid, and all the kids rolling with him would be like laughing or whatever. And dude, if this kid was trying to clap back, they'd all be like, wait a minute, man. This guy's in a wheelchair. You can't come for him. And that's the most messed up thing. The Gen Z kid was literally using other people's life struggles, other people's serious issues as a kind of shield to defend against him being a bad person and him being able to do what he wants, which is, absolutely ridiculous, right? So at this point, Ben and Gerald have been talking for like an hour about how like insane it is that everyone just kind of lets this behavior go, that no one has an issue with this, on and on and on. But other than that little conversation that Gerald and Ben have, it's not as if they do that much. It's also not as if they're going to share that opinion. Because the thing is, people will kind of look at them the wrong way. Yeah, this kid was a jerk, but he was also fairly popular. And also, the elephant in the room is people are going to be like, man, like, relax, like he has a tough life, like maybe he's just taking it out on people. So Gerald and Ben, while they have this opinion and they do share it together, and it was almost like a relief that he was able to share that opinion. I don't know if you guys have ever like felt like, I can't say what I'm thinking, and then you're able to like express that opinion with your best friend or with a friend. It's just such a relief, right? But anyways, so they get back to school, and for the next like couple weeks, it is just on and on and on of just like the kid's getting worse. Like everyone's thinking, like, how could this kid possibly get worse? The Gen Z kid continues on his rampage. It's like he just refuses to stop. He just continues to be a big jerk, and he just will. It's like he's refusing to stop being a massive jerk to everyone, and it's kind of ridiculous. And he's getting worse and worse. And there's a little bit of growing sentiment against the Gen Z kid, right? But everyone is way too scared to like form any opinion. Look, this is only 8th grade, or to share an opinion. Look, this is only 8th grade, right? This is only 8th graders, but this kid might actually be like a Marvel supervillain. He's got that crazy planning, bro. Like, I don't know, man. Like, he's somehow been able to orchestrate like a kind of a social defense system where he can be the worst kid ever and actually be a massive jerk, but no one can oppose him without being weird. So anyway, or being ostracized by their community. Anyways, here's the thing. So this, the downfall of the Gen Z kid all started one day. So Gerald was walking alone in the hallways. It was kind of close to after school. And he walks around and he turns a corner. And he sees the Gen Z kid. And for a split second, he thinks to himself, wait a minute, because he looks at the Gen Z kid and it looks like he sat down. It looks like the Gen Z kid just sat down into his wheelchair, which doesn't make sense. The lower half of his body doesn't move. But he was certain what he saw. But he also, while he was certain what he saw, he was thinking, well, maybe it was just some kind of an illusion. Maybe I just wasn't seeing things right. There was a lot of possibilities. And eventually, Gerald does turn the corner, and he's in the same hallway as the Gen Z kid, and Gerald is like so distracted in thought that he kind of like trips over his own feet a little bit. He doesn't trip and fall on the ground, but I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. I definitely have. where you're walking, but you're just not paying attention, and you just kind of like trip over your own feet, but catch yourself pretty quickly. And as he's walking by, the Gen Z kid's like, oh man, watch out, your feet are there. Kind of as like a joke of like, you just tripped over nothing, bro. How do you trip over nothing? Like, seriously, how do you trip over nothing? Kind of like a joke like that. And, you know, I don't know, Gerald was kind of looking at him like, all right, man. And Gerald just keeps walking, and he just can't get over the fact that he knew what he saw. He was like, no, this can't be right. Because, like, while he was thinking that the Gen Z kid was a pretty big jerk, and there was no question about that, at the same time, Gerald did not for a single second until this, or before this, ever thought that the Gen Z kid was faking, being in a wheelchair. He just thought that, wow, like, this kid is like a jerk and also happens to be in a wheelchair. Like, you can be both of those at the same time, you know what I mean? So Gerald just can't get this out of his mind. He just is like, he just keeps walking, keeps thinking about it, and for the rest of the day, he can't focus in class. Actually, no, not focus in class, because it was towards the end of the day. For the rest of the time at home, trying to do homework, he was like struggling, bro. He was struggling to pay attention because he was like, I know what I saw. I know what I saw. Yeah, so he gets back home, and this is where he does a little investigating. So basically, the Gen Z kid told everyone a very specific story about what happened in his life and how he got there. Basically, the Gen Z kid said he got in a really bad car crash when he was 4 years old, and that, I don't know, like after that point, he had to be in a wheelchair, and the bottom, like his bottom half didn't work, right? Or it was like paralyzed or whatever. So that was the story that he told everybody. And Gerald was just like, he's like, I'm just so, like, he goes on this kid's Instagram. And sure enough, this kid has like one post, and it's him like holding a fish or whatever, and he's in the wheelchair. And it's very recent, right? It was a post made like while this kid was at school. And he had no other posts. So what Gerald does is he goes to this kid's tagged post. So on Instagram, by the way, follow me on Instagram at ConnorPugs. You can submit your stories there, and also you can watch my shorts on there, or reels, or whatever it's called, right? I do little short stories on there. Anyways, right, so he goes in the kid's tagged photos. He's looking through the tagged photos. And he's just, finding like, I don't know, he's not finding that much. And he's finding like a lot of like memes or whatever that his friends posted on their Instagram and like tagged him in or whatever. I don't know, but like back when I was in 8th grade, I would just like screenshot funny memes and post them on my main Instagram. Like now I just don't post anything, bro. I'm just like, nah, I'm not posting anything. But that's how I'd use it back in the day. But he just kept scrolling, and he found the photo at the very bottom of the tagged. It was from 5 years ago, so quite a while ago. But the Gen Z kid was definitely older than 4 at this point. So it was a photo of a bunch of kids all standing up together. First of all, I think you guys caught it. They're all standing up together. But it must have been either a camp or a school they used to go to, or some kind of after-school program or something. And since they were in 8th grade, it was like 4 or 5 years ago or whatever. The Gen Z kid was probably like 3rd or 4th grade. When you're in 4th grade, you are significantly older than 4, unless you're baby Einstein or whatever. But he was obviously much older than 4. And Gerald is just staring at this photo. And he can't stop staring at the photo. Because he's looking at the photo, and every kid is standing upright. And there's a kid who looks like the Gen Z kid when he was like 3 or 4 years younger probably. This kid was standing up. This kid was 100% standing up, no questions. No wheelchair in sight, no nothing. And Gerald is just like, oh my God. Like, this kid cleaned up his profile. Like, he probably had photos from back in the day that he scrubbed and all this kind of stuff, right? And maybe if any of his older friends who still follow him commented on the post saying, wait, you're in a wheelchair now? Deleted those comments, right? He did a good job scrubbing his profile, except for one photo. Here's the thing, though. Gerald made a bit of a mistake. Instead of screenshotting the photo, he just assumed, oh, well, this isn't the tagged, so I can just tell people to go check out the Gen Z kids tagged photos. So anyways, the next day in school, Gerald immediately is like, all right, well, I gotta spread the truth, because, even though I do have an agenda against this kid, I don't really like him. It's better that people know the truth, and that's the most important thing. Anyways, though, so right, Gerald now has information. Gerald now has proof that the whole time the Gen Z kid has been faking it. Gerald doesn't totally understand why. Gerald doesn't understand how. Gerald doesn't understand a lot of details. However, what Gerald does know is that there is a photo on this kid's Instagram page that shows him very clearly standing up when, you know, he can't stand up. This kid cannot stand up, bro, at least from what he's been told or what he's told everyone else. So Gerald knows this, and he knows this is what he's going to spread. So there was a very strict no phones policy at school. Everyone's phones had to be in their backpacks, and like teachers would legitimately like take someone's phone for an entire week if they saw it. So the problem was that for the longest time, not the longest time, but for the duration of the day, you couldn't be on your phone. A few kids would occasionally like sneak them around, but just the whole risk of having your phone taken away for an entire week, you weren't even allowed to get it at the end of the day. You had to wait till the end of the week to get it, man. So a lot of kids were just like, all right, fine, whatever, we just won't go on our phones. So here's the problem, right? Gerald immediately starts telling everyone in person about what's happened. So instead of sending them the Instagram post over Instagram DMs the night before or waiting till he got back to send the Instagram post to people, what Gerald does, and he admits this was a mistake in retrospect, was he just simply tells people, if you go on the Gen Z Kid's Instagram tonight and you go to his tag section, you scroll all the way down, you will find a photo from 3 to 4 years ago in which the Gen Z Kid is very clearly standing up. And if you remember his story, well, he was like paralyzed in a car crash at the age of 3 or 4, not like 12 or 13. Huge discrepancy right there. So word spread extremely quickly. This is a relatively small school, so word tends to spread kind of quickly, but especially some allegation of this like magnitude. The other thing that happened was that Gerald's name was attached to this allegation. Basically, he said this, and everyone went around saying Gerald is saying that the Gen Z Kid is faking it, and he has proof. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment proof down below. That'll be the secret word of the day. And while you're in the comment section, check out the pinned comment on the video. That's a link to the Spotify page in which I upload all these story times as podcasts on there, and also a link to 3 other channels I run and post daily on. So please subscribe to all 3 of those to help me out. And yeah, let's get right back to it. So anyways, right, word spread extremely quickly that Gerald was claiming that the Gen Z Kid faked everything. So pretty big accusations, allegations, whatever, right? And here's the thing. So Gerald was, he told everyone, people were talking about it, and no one really had access to their phones. A lot of people wanted to, but what ended up happening was the school day eventually ended, and everybody was talking about it. And when I mean everybody was talking about this, bro. Like, everyone was talking about it. So, Gerald, he got back home, or he's getting in the car with his mom, and he goes into his backpack and he pulls out his phone. After about 5 minutes, he receives a text notification from someone in his class. Not that he's super close friends with, but I think they must have had either a grade large group chat, or maybe he needed to exchange numbers for a project they did in class. But for some reason, right, he had Gerald's personal number. And so Gerald receives a text from some guy he's kind of friends with being like, and it says something along the lines of, bro, why did you make up that stuff about the Gen Z Kid? So Gerald is super confused at this point, and he responds to the text, what do you mean? And the kid says, I went to the Gen Z Kid's page and I can't find the post. There's no post at all. And, Gerald's like, what? So Gerald opens up his Instagram and he goes to the post, or he goes to the Gen Z Kid's account. And he goes to the tag section and he scrolls all the way down and he keeps looking. He looks all for it. He's like, oh, maybe it's not the very last one and I remembered it wrong. Maybe it's a couple posts down, but not the very last. Gerald looks through every single tagged post and it's gone. Basically, the proof of the Gen Z Kid faking it is gone. And that's when Gerald realizes that what must have happened was that because word spread so quickly and that Gerald didn't attach any actual proof with his accusations, he told people to go look for it, word must have got back to the Gen Z Kid. The Gen Z Kid brushed it off oh, no. Then the Gen Z Kid must have immediately taken the risk and gone on his phone and removed himself from the tagged post, right? Because you can go to Instagram and you can remove yourself if you're tagged in a post. And the thing is, Gerald, I said this earlier, never got a screenshot, bro. He never got a screenshot. He could not for the life of him remember the name of the account that tagged him, because it was It was like, I don't know, Megatron 48 768 pi square. It's like some crazy username that you just won't remember. So at this point, Gerald's like, oh no. So yeah, within the next 30 minutes, Gerald probably receives 25 different messages, either on Snapchat, Instagram, DMs, text message. Probably got a few faxes coming in too, basically being like, dude, that's crazy for you to like. It was either along the lines of, that's messed up for you to make that stuff up about the Gen Z kid, or something like, dude, can you send me the post? I can't find it. Or just like, wait, are you sure that you saw what you saw? Like around, it was basically a bunch of variations of those three messages. Yeah, so Gerald was like, oh, crap, bro. There's no way. Yeah, Gerald got bamboozled. The Gen Z kid, he should have realized you got to get screenshots. You got to get the receipts, man, especially on something where the guy can get rid of the receipts. And the thing is, too, if the school didn't have such strict rules about having no phones or whatever, kid probably would have just pulled out his phone, checked, and been like, yep, here's proof, right? But no, people just waited till they got back. But I guess the Gen Z kid realized that he needed to take the risk and go on his phone. And honestly, like, Gerald didn't even see this coming. I think he totally forgot about the fact that you can remove yourself from an Instagram post. So yeah, Gerald got completely frickin' bamboozled here, bro. He got absolutely owned. And let me just say that socially, he got really owned. So yeah, he received a ton of text messages that night along, I already told you the three. Basically, the either being like, how dare you do this, or the I can't find the post, or are you sure you saw it correct, bro? And yeah, so Gerald wasn't like, I don't know, the popular kid that, oh no, his reputation's ruined. The only thing he has going for him is the fact that he's quote unquote popular in high school, which, oh yeah, that means so much, bro, of course. Yeah, but at the same time, like, Gerald, like, would have kind of, like, friends, people, I don't know if you guys had this, but, like, more casual friends in class, people he would be, there were some people Gerald was really close with, but there's also a lot of people that he was just kind of friends with, and, like, people he'd sit with, people he'd get lunch with, people he'd walk with, like, he wasn't necessarily a popular guy in the sense he was, like, I don't know, on the hockey team, or had some kind of, like, social clout like that, but he was a very kind of, like, he was a very talkative person, and he spoke to a lot of people, and for that reason, he was always like, he had a lot of people that he was kind of casually friends with, and not like two very close friends, and that's it. So yeah, for the next week, Gerald has like one of the worst social experiences of his life. He's completely ostracized, as everyone thinks that he made this up about the Gen Z kid just to make him look bad, which not only are you making some kid look bad based off, factless or just like not true accusations, you're also trying to like tear down the kid that like already has a difficult life because he's disabled and in a wheelchair. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible look for Gerald. Yeah, so this is probably one of the hardest weeks because some people still hang out with him, some people don't really care. Like, obviously, or not, I shouldn't say obviously, but his closest friends are still friends with him. That didn't change, which is pretty cool. I shouldn't say obviously because, I don't know, sometimes close friends aren't actually as close as you think. And even some of his casual friends don't care, and they're like, all right, bro, whatever. But a lot of his kind of like casual friends, while they weren't like, you can't sit with us, a lot of them would like, I don't know. There's a lot of like things people can do to kind of, imply that they don't want to hang out with you, such as you sit down somewhere and you're unassigned assigned seats, and then they decide to sit somewhere different, even though they've sat in the exact same spot for half a year. I don't know, if you normally walk with someone, they quickly walk to their next class instead of waiting for you, or they stay behind. Just a lot of like things that Gerald was noticing that people were definitely avoiding him, which partly he couldn't blame because he's like, dang, I don't know if I'd want to hang out with me too if like I believed the rumor going, or I believed what people believe. And Gerald also didn't blame people for believing what they believed. I mean, people went to the Instagram page and nothing was there. Why would they believe him? Of course, all this did end up changing when the Gen Z kid exposes himself as a fraud in front of basically everyone at the school. And Gerald gets an instant redemption when that happens. So let me just kind of jump to that situation. So it's about 2 weeks, and after Gerald, like 2 weeks of like turmoil for Gerald, where no one wants to hang out with him. people are always like, a lot of people are talking about him, about he got exposed. Oh my God, Gerald seems like such a nice guy, but he's making fun of the Gen Z kid, making up rumors about him, like, wow, Gerald's actually a snake, blah, blah, all this kind of stuff, right? And so it's a really tough week for Gerald, or 2 weeks or whatever. And this school doesn't have any fire drills. I think they have like the most lame excuse for a fire drill you've ever seen. Like, I think the school, what they'll do is they'll like, I don't know, I think they'll put on like, they'll be like, all right guys, if there's a fire, what do you do? And they say, walk out, or like, I don't know, walk outside. And the teacher's like, good, okay, let's get back to class. So they never really had an actual fire drill. So when the fire alarm went off during the school meeting, when everyone was there, it was almost a bit of chaos that ensued. Yeah, so they were in just a meeting, and since they never had the fire alarm ever go off, because they never had a real fire drill, as I was just explaining, when the fire alarm goes off, everyone freaks out and panics. This is why you have fire drills. So when it actually goes off, and by the way, there was no fire. It was like, I don't know, some kind of bug got into the system, like an actual physical bug climbed in there and set it off or something. But yeah, that's why you do drills, so when it actually happens, you don't panic, freak out, all this kind of stuff, right? So anyways, right, everyone freaks out, and everyone's sitting in the auditorium. So immediately the teacher runs up to the speakers, like, everyone get up, single file out of here, go immediately to the front lawn, and people were cramming the door. It was an absolute disaster, bro. It was a blank show. It was not good right now. And I think afterwards they started implementing actual fire drill just because of how bad this was, even though it wasn't an actual fire. But anyways, everyone immediately gets up and starts running towards the door. Listen to my sentence, the words I just said very closely because I did not misspeak. Everyone gets up and starts running towards the door. Everyone. You know who was in that meeting? The Gen Z kid. So everyone, and at the moment, no one really notices. Maybe a few people are like, wait, what? I'm hallucinating, bro. But no one really notices as everyone is running very quickly to try and get out the door. And so they all get outside, and they all kind of like form a big clump or whatever, and the grass, the fields outside, and the teachers are like, all right, like, go by everyone, find your 5th period class, like, find your teacher for your 5th period class. They're going to take your attendance, make sure you're all here. 5th period was going to be right after school meeting anyways. So everyone gets in those lines, right? And Gerald is like kind of all frazzled or whatever, as the energy was insane, and he was like, oh my God, like, everyone's going crazy. But he looks over, he's just kind of like casually looking around. And he looks at the Gen Z kid, who is standing in line, standing. And the people in the Gen Z's, like, kids' like class or whatever, the 5th period class, are kind of looking at him with this weird look. And Gerald taps like the shoulder of his friend, Ben, who happens to be in the 5th grade class. The one, remember way back when he had a sleepover and him and Ben were like, oh, that kid's the worst. Taps his shoulder, points at the Gen Z kid, and he's standing there. So slowly, everyone starts staring at the Gen Z kid. And the Gen Z kid doesn't even realize what just happened. And so, yeah, everyone starts to realize that the Gen Z kid is standing there. And eventually, the Gen Z kid realizes what's up. And he freezes. Like, he was kind of like casually like standing there, but you could just tell that, like, Gerald could tell the moment that the Gen Z kid realized that he messed up, because the Gen Z kid was just standing there, stiff as a freaking broomstick, frozen with fear, because he doesn't know how to get out of this situation. He's probably going through like a billion calculations in his head of, oh, what's the most optimal thing I can do to save myself? But he went through all of them and none of them worked. Zero. There's no way to explain this. He starts like turning to his classmates and be like, oh my God, guys, I don't know how this happened, but I must have been cured. Like, I'm feeling so much better. And they're all just looking at him, because they knew the rumors that he was faking it. And then they all were like, wow, he got accused of faking it and it's false. So everyone in the back of their mind was now kind of like open to the idea that he might be faking it, because a rumor spread about that, even though that rumor was proven to be false. So now that there was proof that all of them could see the Gen Z kid was faking it, now there was nothing the Gen Z kid would do. From that day on, the Gen Z kid did not come in with a wheelchair, because he's not actually disabled, right? He walks normally. Immediately to the very bottom of the social structure. No one wanted to hang out with him. Even the kids that nobody liked didn't want to hang out with him. No one wanted to hang out with him. And Gerald immediately kind of got the whole, like, no one apologized to Gerald, which is pretty funny, but, like, you know how I was telling you earlier that some people who, like, stopped, would, like, kind of, like, walk faster than him, or wouldn't wait for him, or would sit at different tables, all those people just started hanging out with Gerald again, like nothing just happened. One thing I will say is Gerald will always remember the people that stuck with him through thick and thin, the people that either believed him or not, but knew his character, so decided to kind of like make a bet on him actually being a good person and not doing what people said that he did. Gerald will never forget those people. And still to this day, the Gen Z kid is super ostracized. And Gerald said that actually by the end of that year, the Gen Z kid had moved schools and was going to another school.